The top handguns of today are modern marvels of speed and accuracy, but it would be a mistake to forget the classic pistols that brought us here. From Colt's revolver to today's modern guns, and dozens in between. Over the years, there has been a wide range of pistols that every shooter should know about and keep in their gun safe. Below is a list of 7 firearms that inspired many of the revolvers and semi-autos that we carry today. Colt 1911. For many core handgun shooters, one combat pistol always stands alone, the 1911. If the .45 Colt single-action revolver doesn't do the trick, you just go with your trusty 1911 chambered in .45 ACP. This weapon with this round doesn't have to be shy. On the contrary, this round will finish off every attacker rather quickly. Many internet experts believe it is an outdated design, chambered for an unnecessarily large cartridge and unable to hold enough ammo. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but anyone who thinks the platform is outdated is simply wrong. The 1911 has served 2 world wars and been used by the military, law enforcement, and civilians for over 100 years. This gun has won all kinds of pistol competitions around the world. The undeniable truth is the 1911 has more than proven its durability, reliability, stopping power, and precision. There have been some changes to the modernization, but the 1911 is still considered the best pistol, at least in the opinion of many shooters, and the .45 ACP the best cartridge. The only downside, the rather limited magazine capacity, doesn't detract from it. Colt Single-Action Army. In 1830, Sam Colt got bored crossing the ocean in a slow boat and carved a wooden model of a bolt-action pistol to pass the time. As a result, he is said to have invented the modern revolver. It is arguably the most famous revolver ever made. It can be seen in drawings, cowboy movies, and most recently in cowboy action shooting. When you think of gunfights in the Wild West, you'll most likely imagine this weapon in the hands of good old gunslingers. Even movies set in its pre-creation period show it, as it is simply the weapon associated with cowboys. The cylinder, frame, and barrel are painted a beautiful blue, and the receiver is case-hardened. The grips are hard rubber, with the original Colt logo on top, and they fit well to the grip frame. The balance of the single-action army revolver is excellent. This is one of the fastest point-and-hit handguns ever used. A big advantage of this pistol is its hip balance. The single-action army Colt combined with the .45 Colt centerfire cartridge gave birth to the modern handgun era. The mark it has left in handgun history is indelible and deep. Smith & Wesson NFrame Model 2729. Prior to 1935, handguns were primarily a defensive tool. They were relatively low in power and were not considered hunting or sporting weapons. Then came the .357 Magnum and the Smith & Wesson registered revolver. This pistol evolved into the Model 27, which was not only important to cops, but also launched the modern civilian concept of the Magnum revolver. The weapon used a large N-frame, and it was considered to be a work of art with a high degree of perfection. In 1955, the N-frame was used again with the introduction of the new .44 Magnum cartridge and the Model 29 revolver. This may be the most famous modern revolver, mainly because it was used by Clint Eastwood in the Dirty Harry movies, and any serious handgun shooter of that era had at least one of both revolvers in his safe. In the IHMSA competition, more than 3/4 of the new shooters shot with the Model 29. Elmer Keith was hugely involved in the development of both Magnum cartridges when he shot a wounded mule deer at 600 yards with his .44 Magnum. Both models probably played the most part in introducing the sport of modern-day handgun hunting. They can both kill a deer cleanly any day, and the .44 Magnum can even take down some of the biggest game in the world. The Browning High Power. The Browning High Power was John Moss's Browning's final pistol design, as he died while he was working on it. High Power was released in 1935. An iconic defensive handgun, the High Power has served many law enforcement agencies and the military, especially in Europe. While the design is a bit outdated by modern standards, the High Power is still a relatively small, all-metal pistol with a long background of reliable performance. Its double-stacked 9mm magazine holds 13 rounds, and some aftermarket magazines even hold up to 15 rounds. Even though this gun has a lot to offer, there are some major drawbacks. Firstly, this gun has a magazine safety. In other words, it cannot fire unless the magazine is inserted. Also, the beaver's tail is too short to defend against it, so the hammer may actually hit the shooter's hand. Browning stopped manufacturing the weapon in 2017, but several clones have recently entered the market that address some of the original design shortcoming, such as Springfield's SA-35 and FN High Power. It's a great gun, and though there might be far better options out there today, the High Power was the ultimate 9mm pistol for years. Nagant M1895 revolver. If you think this name reminds you of something, you're right. Millions of Mosin Nagant rifles that were the standard equipment of the Russian army fighting the Nazis during World War II flooded the surplus market just a few years ago. Primarily chambered in 7.62 by 54mm, these bolt guns became widespread due to their cheap ammunition. What many people don't know is that the Nagant brothers, Leon and Emil, also invented a pistol for the Russians. Their revolver was an engineering wonder with its slide cylinders and extended firing pins. A special 7.62mm cartridge was used, in which the bullet was buried deep in the case. The mouth of the case is flared, and when the gun is cocked, the cylinder slides forward until this flared case hits the rear of the barrel. This seals everything and eliminates the problems associated with most cylinder barrel gaps found in traditional revolvers. Although replaced by the Tokarev pistol from 1933 and the Makarov pistol in 1952, the Nagant revolver continued to serve for many years. Thompson Center Contender. In 1965, Warren Center, working in his home shop in New Hampshire, developed a unique single-shot break-action pistol. This gun had easily interchangeable barrels, so you can buy one gun and multiple barrels. Since the rear sight and scope stayed with the barrel, they held the zero of the pistol when switched. The gun was originally chambered for low-pressure, low-recoil cartridges, but more cartridge options were added soon. The Contender did not sell well at all, at first. It was said to be too different. Then, in the late 1970s, IHMSA long-range competition shooting took off. Simultaneously, handgun hunting did too. The gun proved itself in long-range competition, and eventually there had to be a separate category developed just for the Contender. It was extremely accurate and outperformed any revolver. Smith & Wesson ended up buying TC in 2006, and Contender eventually disappeared.